Dodgers have won it all. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. He struck him out. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Left Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Daniel Starkand. Throwback to the OGs, me, you, and Matt from 2020, and we have another OG friend that wants to join us tonight. Is that right, Daniel?
That's right. We got our old friend here, bringing it back out after a sweep. It's been a while. I had to go find it. I think it was in my garage. Collecting dust in there. So he was begging to come out. I haven't been on to end a sweep, I don't think, this season. So it's good to be back here. Good to be back here with you. And it's good to be talking about another Dodgers sweep. All of a sudden, the sky is no longer falling, and the boys in blue, best record in baseball.
Best record in baseball. They win again. They sweep the Mariners with an 8-4 victory tonight. We're going to get into it. As always, thank you to the folks joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Tons to get to tonight. The Dodgers, this one, Daniel, started out in a way that wasn't promising. Logan Gilbert was perfect through 2 innings with 4 strikeouts. And then ho-hum, Dodgers 8 runs in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th inning to take a commanding lead and kind of put this one out of reach. The Padres lose tonight, which means the Dodgers divisional lead is up to 4. Jack Flaherty pitches well. Everybody in the lineup except for Tommy Edman gets a hit. No home runs. I mean, just kind of a funky game. And yet, Daniel, I think that's what makes me so encouraged. We know the Mariners' incredible pitching. Logan Gilbert, for much of this game, looked absolutely nasty. Even after giving up 6 runs tonight, his ERA is 3.2 on the season. And yet, this is what the Dodgers do when the lineup is there. They just chip away, wear guys down. An error here, a misplayed ball here, and all of a sudden, 8 runs for the Dodgers, and this one was a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all know the Mariners' offense is nothing to write home about. So it wasn't surprising to see the pitching staff do what they did this series, but for the offense to do what they did, specifically against a guy like Logan Gilbert, who coming into the night, and probably still does, had the lowest whip in baseball. Like, his whip on the season was like 0.80. Like, he's one of the best pitchers that really no one talks about, probably because he's on the Mariners and they don't score any runs for him. But the offense was just grinding out at bats all night, to put up 8 runs against one of the best, in the league, is great to see. Like, I know that the Dodgers lineup hasn't always had the length this season. There's been injuries and such. So there's been some rough ones, as far as when you look and you see, Kike Hernandez batting 5th and Austin Barnes batting 7th, or whatever the case may be. But those days are behind us. The team is fully healthy, really, for the first time all year, and we're really seeing what they're capable of. Like, that lineup is as deep as any lineup in baseball right now. And obviously you got the superstars at the top, and even a guy like Max Muncy, like, he's been batting 7th since he came back, and he's been an absolute difference maker. Obviously great to have him back, another bases clearing double tonight. So good times right now. Like you said, they get the lead back to 4 games in the NL West. It seems like hopefully the Padres and D-backs are starting to cool down at least a little bit. So things are going well right now. Obviously a lot of baseball left to be played, but no complaints sitting here on August 21st.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks not cooling down anytime soon. They were down 6-3 tonight and came back to win 10-8. So, I mean, there's literally nothing you can do to stop that team. A great stat here from somebody in the chat. 3rd time in 26 starts this year that Logan Gilbert doesn't complete 5 innings. You mentioned the whip was .88 coming into this game. The Dodgers get 7 hits. And again, 6 earned runs off of Gilbert, who throws 100 pitches and doesn't even make it out of the 5th inning. So, to your point, we're not going to sit here and say, look how amazing the Dodgers pitching is. They shut down a Mariners offense for the last 3 days. But I am going to sit here, Daniel, and say, to go up against a team with the pitching that the Mariners have, 4th best ERA in baseball over the last two months, and for them to go out and get 17 runs against them over the last 3 games, that's nothing to sort of sniff at. And for a team, again, we kept saying it, just wait till this team gets healthy. This is why. Again, no home runs tonight. This wasn't like Ohtani hit 2 home runs and everybody else stunk. 8 of the 9 guys had hits tonight. Tommy Edman being the only one who didn't, reached on an error at the end of the game, but no home runs, just, taking advantage of opportunities, working counts, getting to 100 pitches before the 5th inning is even over. And that's exactly what the Dodgers did tonight. And that's what we can expect, I feel like, right, Daniel? Like this is not an abnormal game, which is why it's so encouraging.
Yeah, we're starting to kind of see the Dodger offense of old where, they're able to work counts and get the starting pitchers, pitch count up there. So they're out of there, by the 5th inning or whatever. And then you're seeing at bats off some of their worst relievers by the end of the series. So yeah, this is what the Dodgers are when they're at their best. And we haven't seen it all season. And like I said, there's obviously been a lot of injuries and now they're finally healthy. And there's still some guys who haven't exactly gotten going yet. Like it could be scary when Shohei, gets into another hot streak and Will Smith gets going again and so forth. But they just got so many dudes that they don't need every single guy going. Like when Gavin Lux is hitting like one of the best guys in the league over the last month, that takes a lot of pressure off other guys as well. So
yeah,
it's fun to watch. It's you kind of get that feeling where it's like I just wish the postseason would be here right now, just because a month from now, who knows what things will look like. But you knock on wood, hope that all these guys could stay healthy, because if they do, that's a really good lineup, and it's a long one too, like, which I think is key.
Yeah, you mentioned Will Smith, by the way, 2 balls tonight off the bat, 101 miles an hour or harder. So, I'm not sitting here saying he's that's encouraging. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it at it's encouraging. He goes 1 for 2 tonight with a sacrifice fly and a walk. Let's get to some super chats here. Again, as always, we appreciate the folks joining us live. Carlos, you two got me into this channel since 2020. It's true. I was just telling somebody the story. He goes, "How long have you been doing this?" I said, "Well, during COVID, we decided to start when there was no baseball happening." Again, it was myself, it was Daniel, it was Matt Moreno at different times. And so, Carlos, we appreciate you being with us for 4.5 years. Things are going better now, Daniel, than they were 4 years ago. Although, we went World Series in your first year having a show. Not terrible.
That's what I was going to say. But, we appreciate all the OGs. We appreciate all our new followers. And like you said, 2020 was the last time they won it all. So maybe we'll get a repeat of that this year.
Yeah, we can hope. We can hope. Let's see. Laura, another OG who's been with us from the beginning. Any concern about Glasnow's return being pushed back even a little? Reports today, Daniel, that Tyler Glasnow from Dave Roberts would not be having a minimum stay on the injured list. I don't know. Your thoughts?
I mean, I'll say I'm not surprised by that. Those comments, like, that's kind of what we all expected, even if they said like he's only going to miss the minimum 15 days. Anytime it's an elbow issue, they're going to be as cautious as possible, as they should be. Like, Tyler Glasnow is arguably the most important pitcher on this staff, and you want him healthy in October. You don't need him healthy on September 1st. So give him the time he needs. But yeah, obviously there is a level of concern there. Anytime it's an elbow issue, there's some level of concern, but they still got, a month and 10 days or whatever in the regular season here. So time is still on their side. But if we're like 2-3 weeks down the road and he's still not making progress, then I would say like the concern could kind of turn into panic. But until then, there's definitely an appropriate level of concern, but not going to overreact just yet.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter kind of did the math and said, well, if he comes back in like 18 days, then it's September 1st when rosters expand. So that's the optimistic view. The pessimistic view, which I had a text conversation with Anthony about, was there's no such thing as like elbow soreness should either be the minimum stay on the injured list or it feels like it's highly concerning. There's not a middle ground where it's like, no, this is the 25-day elbow soreness, like nothing to worry about here. So hopefully it's just roster stuff. And they're just going to wait until September 1st to activate him, which would be, I think it's like 17 or 18 days instead of 15 days. But we can hope. Definitely, I would say there is some concern just because, there's not a ton of time. If this is anything other than minor, we could be an issue. Another super chat here from LTTE Beaches. Ohtani 39 and 39 offense is finally clicking. Daniel, it's getting to the point when he hits a ball that's a borderline double. I feel like he just stays on first because he's like, that's fine. I'm just going to steal this bag anyways.
Yeah, I will give myself a little pat on the back because one of my favorite prop bets going into the season was Ohtani stolen bases. The over on that, I think the line was like 16.5 or 17.5. So he hit that months ago. And now, we're kind of, I guess we're technically on 40-40 watch, even though we know that's a foregone conclusion that's happening. Then we could move on to 50-50, which no one has ever done in baseball. So it's been fun to watch. And he's not even really, he's not hot right now. He's been pretty cold. Like he's still hitting his homers and he's still stealing his bases, but overall the offensive production has been down a little bit. So whenever he does hit that next hot streak, we might see him get to 45, pretty quickly here. And then the 50-50 chase is on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get to some other ones. Rogelio, is young Blake okay? I don't know. I don't know if this is a reference to that Star Wars shows being canceled. I know he was really bummed about that, but
he's at the stadium right now, so all is well as far as health-wise and such, if that's what you're asking. But I cannot comment about Star Wars being canceled because that's not something I watch.
Not your area of expertise.
No.
Huh? Richard says, no accent. The Dodger bats have taken off since Muncy returned. Wonder if the Padres are just as good when playing a healthy Dodger team.
Well, I will say going from Kevin Biggio every day at bats to Max Muncy is a pretty significant upgrade in your lineup, or Kike Hernandez at bats. Insert player, whoever was taking those third base at bats. Max Muncy is a massive upgrade over all those guys. And obviously right now, like he's come back and he's looked like he's clicking right now. Like I think at one point he's like 4 for 9 with 2 homers and 2 doubles. Like that's the kind of production you hope to get from a guy like that. You're not always going to get it, of course, but when a guy's batting, 7th or 5th or 6th in your lineup, giving you that type of production with the superstars you got on top and other guys producing at the bottom, that's a tough lineup to work your way around, 2 or 3 times a night.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Muncy was like, if you go back and look when the Dodgers skid started, it was when Muncy got hurt, which is weird. I can't explain why it was him and not Mookie Betts. But, somebody said when he's batting 7th, it's like having a second cleanup hitter. And I think there's some truth to that, where all of a sudden, again, it's the lengthening of the lineup. The more guys you have in that 5, 6, 7, 8 spot that you can trust, the quicker Ohtani and Betts and Freeman get back up. Because even if those guys are getting a hit or a walk, and then, 5 guys come up an inning, even if you don't score, it just turns the lineup over more quickly, and it feels like a spiral, I imagine, for opposing teams. And so with Muncy, Smith, Lux, Lux is not the guy that we ever thought was going to be lengthening this lineup. We were like, well, Lux will be batting down in the 9 hole, and you just sort of accept it. But instead, Lux is a guy that's right in the middle of that one, and it's been fun stuff to see just what that has been like. So let's talk a little bit about some stuff that happened on the field. We're getting some quotes that are starting to come back. Again, you mentioned Blake is at the stadium. There's a little bit of a dust up between Randy Arozarena and Jack Flaherty. Flaherty on an 0-2 pitch. I believe Arozarena nearly hits a home run. It goes foul. 0-2 pitch. He gets hit like on the hip. And Arozarena's pissy about it, which again, like these are the moments, Daniel, that just blow my mind. Like, do you think he tried to hit you in an 0-2 count? Like, how stupid do you have to be to think that you're trying to get hit in that spot? I don't understand. These are the moments where it's like, there are times, what was it, the situation a little while ago when some Dodger got thrown at and it was like, well, was it intentional, not intentional? Like this one, there's no debate, unintentional.
That was against the Phillies with Nick Castellanos. I forgot who was on the mound, thought someone was thrown
got plunked, I think.
And then Lux got hit after that. But yeah, and also Randy was like 0 for 20, like in an 0 for 24 skid or something. So it's like who's gonna hit you in that situation? And like if I was Randy, I'd be like, thank you, like I'm getting on pace for the first time in a week or something. So
right,
and it was an off-speed pitch too, so I doubt it wasn't like he wore 96 to the ribs or something. So yeah, that was weird. And I guess that it just kind of got started from there because there was some more stuff later in the game as well. So I'm glad it didn't really spark like the Mariners, like, because sometimes like dust ups like that can spark a team. And obviously the Mariners have been struggling a lot, but when the Dodgers are going the way they're going, we could sit here and laugh off this whole little thing because the Dodgers are sitting here, just picked up 3 wins over the Mariners. And I'm sure the Mariners are probably in the clubhouse right now, not too happy about everything that went down.
Yeah. The next at bat, Arozarena pops out and basically makes it halfway down the line. Flaherty says something to him. And then Arozarena, ball still in the air, likely to be caught, doesn't even make it to first base, just decides he's going to start, yelling at Flaherty, saying, come here, whatever he says. Flaherty asked after the game, and this is what he said, quote, I respect Randy as a player. He's been really good in this league as long as he's been here. I mean, there's no reason for me to hit him in that position. He took exception to it. Like, I've got nothing but respect for guys who are really good in this league. We said what we needed to say. Boys jumped out of the dugout. We moved on. He was asked what he said to Arozarena, which, again, I love that some reporters like, hey, what did you say? Well, actually, I called his mom like, what do you expect him to answer? His answer, quote, it doesn't matter. It's going to stay between the lines. It was nothing. We both said what we needed to say. It's all good. I've got nothing but respect for the guy. So, look, I love the intensity. I love the little back and forth. Flaherty didn't back down. He said what he needed to say, and we move on, right?
Yeah, I mean, they say there's not a lot of dogs in that Dodger clubhouse. Well, I guess they got one at the deadline in Jack Flaherty, and that's not a surprise to me. I mean, he's from Burbank, California. I'm from Burbank, California. So I guess we just breed dogs in Burbank. I mean, our high school was the Bulldogs. He didn't go there, but it's good to have a guy like that, with a little fire, and obviously you didn't want it to escalate to a point where it gets physical or anything, but I don't mind, a little chirping, especially when, in my opinion, like Jack Flaherty didn't do anything wrong here. Like it was kind of Arozarena just overreacting to getting hit by the pitch, and then it escalated from there. So I like seeing a little fire. Obviously, Jack is not going to back down to anyone. The guy's like 6'4", 6'5", and if Randy wants to come out to
Jay Hay pops out of the dugout. That ain't a small human being either. Kershaw was right behind him, another big dude.
Clayton Kershaw's out there ready to tussle. That. So it's good to see the guys have his back there and be ready to go. Even though obviously nothing was going to happen, nothing ever does in these baseball scrums, pretty much. But I'm glad we could laugh it off, and the Dodgers kind of got the last laugh, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Some more super chats here. 300 GJW. Well, we know who got that hamstring injury. Damn it, Doc. Let Flaherty finish the sixth. We were joking on the second part right before coming on. Daniel and I are in a fantasy baseball league. One of the stats we count is quality starts. Flaherty gets a ground ball with 5 2/3 in the books. Lux can't make the play, comes out. So would have been a quality start. Ends up not being it. I don't know. Any issue with the decision there? Bases loaded. To not allow Flaherty to finish that inning. He was at 99 pitches going into that next batter. I imagine had probably thrown, 20 or 25 already in that inning.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have let him get one more hitter just to see if he could get out of it. Like, he wasn't really laboring too much. And like you said, he had just gotten a ground ball. So it's not like he was giving up hit after hit after hit where it's like, all right, he's done. Like, I would have given him one more hitter, but at the same time, I don't take too much exception to it. Like, they had a big lead. The bullpen did its job. At the end of the day, Jack Flaherty is a guy who has dealt with his fair share of injuries. And if you could, you don't want him throwing 110 pitches every start and then he's out of gas by the time October rolls around. So, as long as it works out, I'm fine with it. Obviously, if the bullpen goes and blows the lead or something, then that would be a much bigger conversation we'd be having right now. But I didn't really mind it.
Yeah, 8-1 at that point. Like, you're thinking big picture. We're not taking any chances. We'll get to the hamstring injury with Rojas in a little bit. So hold that thought. Godfrey, I know the Dodgers paid Ohtani to hit and pitch, but maybe they should just have him hit. He's been hitting with power and stealing bases. I mean, is there even a 1% chance that they considered not pitching him, Daniel?
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with this. And once we see him on the mound throwing 6 shutout innings with 10 strikeouts next year, I think we're all going to be happy he's pitching. And if it means he only steals 20 bases instead of 40, then I think I'll live with that, especially with the guys behind him in the lineup that are capable of driving him in even without the stolen bases. I just think, obviously, there's so much value that would come from him being not just a starting pitcher, like a really good one. Obviously, we'll see, how he looks coming back from elbow surgery. That's no small thing, of course. But at the end of the day, this is Shohei Ohtani we're talking about, and I'm not going to sit here and doubt that he's going to be a great pitcher when he comes back. So, just having that that option for your rotation next year when you're going to lose some guys and such. Shohei Ohtani's still going to be pitching, if it's up to me.
One other story, we just got out of the clubhouse. Our guy Blake Williams, who's in the clubhouse, just told this story saying Bonda pranked him, and we got the details. He basically said we were walking through the clubhouse. Bonda pretended like Blake had stepped on his toe, said good acting. Kirsten asked me about it. We were all confused, but Fabian told them that Bonda likes to play pranks. So shout out to Bonda getting our guy Blake to make him feel like he broke his toe or something.
Oh, I wish they could have caught that on camera or something. I'd love to see Blake's face when he didn't know it was a prank and he thought he stepped on Bonda's toe or whatever. Can you imagine the headline there? Like,
No.
if Bonda goes on the IL tomorrow with like a stub toe or whatever.
Yeah, beat
It's our guy,
reporter,
Blake Williams,
beat
that's
reporter
responsible.
steps on, breaks his toe. Although Bonda, I mean, come on, Bonda's not going on the IL with the broken toe. The only soft guys go on the IL with broken toes, right, Daniel?
Oof, shots fired. I'll refrain from commenting there.
I'm just kidding. Austin Barnes stands, don't come at me. It's just a running joke. And shout out to Austin Barnes, tough guy. Where's he from again?
Riverside, California.
Riverside. That's right. Riverside. Peyton, I don't see how they don't keep Kiermaier on the roster for the postseason. You have not been a part of these conversations, at least the last few days. Give me your thoughts on kind of, there's the player Kevin Kiermaier that I think most of us have a general agreement on who he is. The question is there a fit for Kiermaier on this roster come postseason time?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at, how much playing time he has been getting, there obviously is, a fit there. And you look like today, a guy like Miguel Rojas, he's having the hammy issues or whatever. His age is his age, and it's been a while since he's been an everyday player. So I think, I don't necessarily think it's fair to expect him, to play every single day, even though in the postseason there are some off days. So maybe he is able to play every day in the postseason. But I do think the way Kiermaier has been playing, like that's a guy who brings value, even if it just is a late inning defensive replacement. Like, let's just face it, like he's just different in center field than pretty much anyone else on the roster. And I know Edman's good out there, but if Edman's playing somewhere else and they don't really have too many other options in center field, especially, they optioned Andy Pages, and we all know he wasn't great in center field
anyways.
Yeah, to begin with. So I definitely think there is, a role for him, and who knows, like, the bat could completely fall off a cliff, and that wouldn't surprise me even a little bit. Like, we're sitting here on August 21st. The postseason's a long time away. He's been contributing, the last couple weeks or whatever, which is great to see because, like with his defense, if he's able to contribute anything with the bat, like that's a plus. But I do think when everyone's healthy and you have such a deep lineup, like you could kind of afford to have a guy in the 9-hole who's not going to contribute much with the bat, who's all world defensively in center. So I do think, we'll see what happens in a month, but if the playoffs were to start today, I definitely think he would be on the roster. So
yeah,
we'll just kind of see A, who stays healthy, and B, who's performing in the next month or so, because, who know, guys could go hot, guys could go cold, and that'll, affect things. So we're still a long way away from talking postseason roster, but right now, he's been contributing, so he's definitely in the mix.
Yeah, look, if the bat continues a triple tonight, and it wasn't a cheapie in the sense that it wasn't like some blooper, like he slapped it the other way, found a hole, 0-2 count. So kudos to him. That's what I've been skeptical of. But if the bat continues to be relevant, then I think it's a real possibility. I think it's a real possibility either way, but I think it's the likelihood increases. There was a Rojas comment a little bit. Here we go. Rogelio, I respect your ball IQ, Jeff. A lot, actually, but I think you're wrong about Kiermaier. He's making the postseason roster. Look, sometimes give takes. People like them, people don't like them. I will stand on. Most of the time I hear the argument, it's Rojas can't play every day is kind of where it starts. And my thing is just come postseason time, Rojas can play every day. And so again, if Kiermaier offers you more with the bat than Rojas offers you with the bat, I think there's a change. Rojas has been really, really good, and Kiermaier, like, even with some of these hits here and there, at a home run a week ago, it hasn't necessarily been there. This is a guy who was DFA'd by a different team like a month and a half ago and traded for Ryan Yarbrough was like the cost to acquire him, who had also been DFA'd, by the way. So, we'll see. I keep trying to say, like, it's not a reflection of Kiermaier sucks at defense or anything like that. I just think if Edman's playing center and Rojas is playing shortstop, the defensive sub piece doesn't necessarily fit in there. Now, if it's going to be some sort of platoon where Rojas is against one side, Kiermaier against the other, and Edman filling in, maybe. But I do want to talk along these lines, Daniel, about the Miguel Rojas injury. Scratched from the Dodgers lineup prior to today's game with a hamstring flare-up. Roberts says it was precautionary. He expects the 35-year-old to return to the lineup Friday following Thursday's scheduled off day. This smells a lot to me, Daniel, like a Phantom IL stint that lines up pretty perfectly with Chris Taylor potentially coming back and not having to DFA any of Hayward or Kiermaier or Kike or any of these guys. And I kept thinking, like, who's the guy that they would DFA? Like, who could they give the time off to? Because Kike hasn't been hitting. You don't really want to do that. Like, Hayward just has the big hit. You don't really want to do that. And then they do Rojas, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's the perfect guy. He's 35. He's not in the midst of some crazy streak. He doesn't need the reps. He's literally the perfect guy to just rest for 2.5 weeks. They haven't done it yet, but I mean, come on now, right? Like, I know you have to pretend like it's real. This is how you would do it. You would scratch him from a lineup. He's old, hamstring issues, day off tomorrow. Oh, you know what? Shoot. It just tightened up. We're going to just be precautionary, put him out for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, well, it also just coincidentally, it just so happens that September 1st is 10 days from now.
No,
so,
my goodness.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's lining up that it wouldn't surprise me at all if Rojas goes on the IL tomorrow. They activate CT, and then 10 days from now, Rojas's hamstring is magically healed, and rosters expand, and he's back and ready to go, and he got the rest he needed, and so on and so forth. But yeah, like you said, like if like Rojas, like, you know, Rojas is a guy you don't want playing every day in the regular season, but once the postseason rolls around and there are more off days, you could probably expect him to be at short, you know, most of the playoff games. And if that's the case, I have no problem with resting him for a couple of weeks right now to get him off his feet and so he could stay fresh into October, where he presumably is going to be playing a lot of innings at shortstop. So I think with all the guys that have come back right now, they could definitely withstand being without Miguel Rojas for a couple weeks here. I think they'll be able to tread water without him. Other guys like, you know, Mookie and Shohei will have to step up in his absence, but I think they're capable of doing that. But yeah, I imagine we'll see Rojas, you know, real soon.
Yeah, and it gives Kiermaier a little bit longer runway to see if the bat adjustments are actually real. Like, is he going to become a guy who's even close to league average offensively, or is he going to be the guy that he was in Toronto, where it was like, you know, basically Gavin Lux was for the first 3.5 months of the season? So if he continues hitting again, 1 for 4 with a triple tonight, triple into the left field corner, by the way. So against Arozarena, who doesn't have, you know, a crappy arm either. So it's a little lollygagging out there in left field, but kudos to Kiermaier, who might have been thrown out if the tag, it was a difficult tag, but the ball beat him, but it was just a difficult play. He beats it. So kudos to him.
Yeah, I don't know if we saw a lot of hustle out of Randy Arozarena on either side of the ball tonight, but yeah, I mean, it's good to see he's still got a little speed in him, even at his age. And I guess in theory, if he is on a postseason roster and you need a pinch runner, he could be an option there as well. So you know, just all these, you know, tools he has in his bag that could come in handy in October. If he could continue to show them, then he's going to get a roster spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just going to be fun. You know, we talk about the team kind of having everything in front of them, having to compete all the way. I imagine the guys at the end of the bench, knowing the pressure of, hey, there's more of us than there are spots, is going to be some extra motivation as well, and maybe bring the best out of the Jason Haywards, the Kike Hernandez, the Chris Taylors, Kevin Kiermaiers, Miguel Rojas's of the world. We can only hope. So let's get back to this game. Dodgers again win 8-4. Jack Flaherty, 5 2/3, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. We mentioned not quite able to get through the 6th inning, but give me your perspective on Jack Flaherty and kind of what we saw tonight. Moments of dominance, moments of struggling a little bit, working through traffic, but somehow this guy always seems to put dudes on base and get out of jams.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, the run prevention has been really good. It hasn't always looked pretty, but I think that's positive just because when it does look pretty, like he's going to have some really dominant starts. And obviously we talked about the Tyler Glasnow injury. With that uncertainty, that puts even more pressure on a guy like Flaherty to, I guess you could consider him the ace of the staff, for the time being. So for him to come out and put up zeros the way he has to give them some length when the bullpen has been taxed seemingly all season is good to see. And he'll have better outings, in front of him. So yeah, really encouraging overall. He's obviously, as long as he's healthy, he's got a he's in your postseason rotation. It's just a matter of, is he your game 1 starter? Is he your game 2 starter or game 3 starter? I think it's going to be one of those. So it's good to see he's having a great year. Obviously the talent has always been there with him. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy and put it all together? And that's kind of what he's been doing this year.
24% whiff rate tonight. That's 11 whiffs on 46 swings, 26% called strike / whiff rate as well. This has been the guy. I think what's so interesting, Daniel, is it doesn't feel like very often you trade for somebody at the deadline and you get exactly what you think you're getting. Like oftentimes it's Kopech, who you feel like you're getting an experiment and he becomes your best reliever. Or, guys, the Mariners think they're getting Randy Arozarena, the good baseball player. They're getting 0 for 25 Randy Arozarena. Flaherty is literally exactly, I wouldn't even say he's been better than expected. He's literally been exactly what I've expected from him.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And also something I was thinking about, you just mentioned Michael Kopech. He didn't throw a single pitch this series. So obviously we saw him get a couple saves in St. Louis, and the velo was down in the second outing. So Dave, said he was going to be down for a couple days. And the fact that they were able to come out here and get a sweep and not need the guy who's been their best reliever over the last month is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Peyton with the super chat. One thing I've been impressed by Flaherty is his level-headedness getting out of situations. He does feel like, your Arozarena situation notwithstanding, you don't really see, I wouldn't call him emotionless. I don't know what the right word is, but it's never too high. It's never too low. And I'm not even saying too high, like the Vesia stuff doesn't bother me. I think that can be positive. Buehler, we've seen that obviously work for him. Bobby Miller as well. But Flaherty just seems calm, cool, and collected. Like he's in control. He's not monotone. He's just in control of the moment at all times.
For sure, and that's going to be necessary in October. So that's great.
Is that the Burbank in him, Daniel? Is that how they teach him out in Burbank?
Look, I will say I was known to pitch in and out of trouble myself as well, and I was able to bear down with runners in scoring position a lot of the time. So I guess that is a Burbank trait, you could say.
What are we doing getting into trouble in the first place? Come on, Daniel.
Hey, you got to. Sometimes you got to give yourself a challenge. Like if you're just mowing them down, that's no fun.
Another super chat here from Beaches. How many starts are we going to give Buehler and Miller? They will derail this train, and they're winning with their inconsistency. If I set the over-under on Bobby Miller starts the rest of the year at 0.5, are you taking the over or the under?
I'll take the over, just because injuries and such and whatnot. Like they might need, someone to cover, a day because they want to give guys extra rest or whatever. But I will say I don't think Bobby Miller will make any starts that will impact his status on the postseason roster. Like I think that ship has sailed. Like he might have a spot start here or two, here or there. But I don't think he's really in the mix, like as far as being in the postseason rotation. I do think they're going to keep trotting Buehler out there. And I do think, as bad as he's been, I guess you could say there was a little progress in this last start. That's what he said, at least. We'll see. But look, I think, until the division lead is like 1 or something, I don't think they're that worried necessarily to the point where it's like we can't keep trotting Walker Buehler out there to kind of let him figure it out. Like I don't have a ton of confidence he's going to figure it out this year, but I do think they're going to give him a few more chances at least. Like once Tyler Glasnow's back, once Yamamoto's back, like, and you have a full rotation, then maybe you could stop this experiment or whatever. But until then, like there's still a lot of uncertainty. Like are guys like Glasnow and Yamamoto even going to come back? And if they don't, then hey, like let's at least give Walker a chance to see if he could figure it out, even if the odds of it happening are not very high. So we'll see. I know it's been tough to watch a lot of the time. But I do think, they're still comfortable, 4-game division lead. The bats are hot right now, and you hope that could kind of carry you. And and you just kind of see what happens, a month from now. Maybe Buehler could string together a few, solid starts to where you gain at least a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, is there any belief when Walker Buehler says, "Hey, I know the results still aren't there, but it actually felt better. I feel like things are coming." And one quote that he said was like, when I'm missing 2 feet to the left, I feel that out of my hand. Like, instead of I have no idea where it's going, he's like, "Oh, that wasn't a good pitch, and it's not a good pitch." So it doesn't change the fact that it wasn't a good pitch. But he's like, at least I understand what's happening a little bit better. I mean,
Yeah.
again, you pitched far more than I did. Like, do you buy that at all, given the results?
I mean, I don't expect him to say anything different necessarily. Like, he's obviously fighting for his job right now. Like, he wants to stay in the mix and show that he could improve. And I like that that's his mindset, at least. Like, he's not sitting there and pouting and saying, I don't have answers. Like, he's definitely putting in the work. His lack of success is not for a lack of trying. So, I respect, the competitor that he is. But with that being said, I didn't hear those comments and all of a sudden, get super optimistic that he's going to turn things around.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As far as this game goes, a recap for those just joining us: the Dodgers go down 1-0 in the second inning. They string together 2 runs in the third, 1 run in the fourth, 5 runs in the fifth to take an 8-1 lead. They give 1 back in the sixth, 1 in the eighth, and 1 in the ninth. But ultimately, the Dodgers come through. Again, Logan Gilbert started this game perfect through 2 innings with 4 strikeouts. And it kind of felt like that was a moment in the top of the third. The Mariners had second and third with 2 outs. Arozarena up at the dish. He pops out. That was when that back and forth happened. But that was a moment where this game easily could have taken a left turn. Flaherty gets out of it. And then in the bottom of the third, Kiermaier reaches on an error with 2 outs. Ohtani walks, Mookie doubles. And all of a sudden, it's 2-1 Dodgers. And again, you just see those 2 moments, the error that keeps an inning alive, and then Flaherty getting out of a runners at second and third situation before the Dodgers, again, ultimately break this one wide open. They add a run in the 4th inning on a Will Smith sacrifice fly that was nearly extra bases. A great play by former Dodger Luke Raley. And then in the bottom of the 5th, Freddie Freeman RBI double, Teoscar RBI single, and then Max Muncy an RBI double with the bases loaded to make this 8-1. You look at the box score, we mentioned Jack Flaherty, 5 2/3, 5 hits, 1 run from him. Bonda comes in, walks a guy with the bases loaded. That run unearned, but goes to Flaherty. He ends up getting 4 outs, no hits allowed, 3 strikeouts. So settles down after that initial walk. Blake Trinan, first appearance back, rusty, 3 hits, gets himself out of trouble with just 1 run allowed. And then Alex Vesia allows the home run to Haniger. So not quite, Daniel, the night that the bullpen had last night, which was dominant, but all things considered, they even said on the broadcast, in Vesia's case, just throw strikes. Haniger happens to smash that one to dead center. But, you kind of just, you take that given the score and given the circumstances, I would say.
Yeah, I think I would be more concerned if the bullpen was like walking a bunch of guys. Like, when you got a big lead, if you give up a couple hits, it's not the end of the world. And like you said, Blake Trinan, it's his first outing back. Another potentially phantom IL situation there, but good to have him back. And I know he didn't look great tonight, but I'm sure he'll get better as it goes. And I did want to give a shout out to Mookie for that double, because like you said, like, Logan Gilbert was looking pretty dominant early in this game, 4 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. And if Mookie gets out there, then who knows, maybe he cruises along and, it's a 2-1 game in the 8th inning or something. But, Mookie gets that hit and the floodgates kind of opened from there. The wheels fell off for a really good pitcher in Logan Gilbert. So, credit to Mookie. And obviously, it can't be overlooked how big of a difference it is having him back too. Like, I know we could talk about a bunch of other guys, a bunch of bottom of the lineup type guys. Max Muncy, it's great having him back, but it's easy to forget Mookie Betts was the NL MVP favorite at the time he got hurt. And to have him back and producing and coming up big the way he has, and he's looked great in right field too. Like, hasn't missed a beat out there. Not that any of us expected that he would. It's great to see, Mookie back in there.
Well, and I love just even the quotes that they had about Mookie in right field, just talking about how stress-free life is out there. He's not worried day to day. Like, again, I know we've had debates on this show, not with you present, but about like whether or not Mookie Betts is pissed about playing right field or not. Like, I don't know. Every quote that has come out does not seem like he's pissed to be playing right field.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not missing taking, 250 ground balls at
Yeah.
3 o'clock when it's 95 degrees at Dodger Stadium. Like I'm sure he's fine with, not having to do that every day. So yeah, I think a lot of that stuff was overblown. And I think Mookie has always been a guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win, whatever position that's playing, wherever,
Yeah.
whatever spot in the batting order. I know he did like lead off, but it seems like he's settled into that number 2 slot behind Ohtani. And great to have him back. That's an MVP caliber player. And
Yeah.
when a guy like that is out, like it's easy to forget how big of an impact it makes when you have him there. But we're kind of seeing that now that he's back.
Yeah, and to be clear, he's talking about that compared to shortstop, not second base. So that's worth pointing out. Good vibrations. The worst thing that would happen is if Buehler gets hot the last month of the season, then gets shelled in the playoffs. Love the show. We appreciate the super chat. I'm not worried about Walker Buehler. If Walker Buehler is good for the next month, I will not be worried about him like caving in the playoffs or something like that. If somehow he finds something, which none of us is saying is likely, none of us would bet on. I don't know why he would then fail in the postseason. So if anything, that would help you get to the postseason, win the division, and not be stressed out of our minds, every night when the Padres are down 3 runs with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 9th inning and about to hit a grand slam, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean that's just baseball. Like you might have a guy who's the hottest pitcher in the league, and he might get rocked, like this guy is saying, or you might have a guy that's struggling to toss a gem. Like I remember,
Yeah.
I hate to bring up last season, but Brandon Pfaadt was I think he had like a 6 ERA in the regular season for the Diamondbacks, and then he was really good for them in the playoffs. So and look, we've seen it with Walker Buehler in the past. Like the guy. The old Walker Buehler was a complete gamer when the lights were the brightest. So if he finds a way to figure it out in this last month, and we'll see where the rest of the pitching staff is at, obviously, but I wouldn't hesitate to throw him out there if he does figure it out, which admittedly is a very big if. Like we're not sitting here saying we think it's going to happen, but it's more of just a we'll see. And obviously they're going to keep trotting him out there. They're going to give him opportunities. We'll see when guys get healthy if those opportunities continue, if the struggles continue. But until then, I know I'm rooting for him to figure it out, even if I don't necessarily expect it to happen. He's a guy I'm always going to root for. He's given us a lot of great memories in Dodger blue, and he used to be the guy that like that's the guy you want to go to war with. Like when your backs are against the wall, like that's the guy you wanted on the mound. So I'm rooting for him. I don't expect him to get back there, but we'll see if what he said the other night, if there's any truth to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I looked at him like the whiff rate was actually good last night. Now he couldn't put anybody away, so that's kind of a weird combination of things. But the swing and miss was there, albeit against the Mariners. We'll get to some questions here in just a minute. Let's do one last bit of news. We've got an injury update, Daniel, on Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Dave Roberts spoke to reporters prior to the series finale against the Mariners, and Roberts revealed Yamamoto is on track to rejoin the rotation sometime in mid-September. Yamamoto threw a 2-inning simulated game on Wednesday that apparently was impressive. They're going to stretch him out to 3 innings next week. But again, the track appears to be headed in the right direction. Yamamoto could be back in the next 3 weeks or so. If Glasnow's injury is minor, if Yamamoto does actually come back healthy, all of a sudden, exactly what we're seeing with the lineup, Daniel, we might start to see with the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, really encouraging news. I will say though, like if right now he's on pace to come back in mid-September, then that means there's really no room for any sort of setback. Like he kind of has to come out of every bullpen, every outing from here on out feeling good for him to be an option in the postseason. Because obviously you're not just gonna bring him back for game 2 of the NLDS or something. Like you're gonna want to see at least a few regular season starts before you really feel comfortable throwing him out there in the postseason. But yeah, you hope for the best. Obviously, he's a guy who, if he's healthy, he's going to be in the mix. Whether that, it probably, I think it's fair to say if he's healthy, he probably would be on a schedule where he's throwing 1 game per series. I think that's fair to say. So if that's your game 4 starter, then I'd say your rotation's in a really good spot. But just hope for the best. Hopefully there's no setbacks, and really encouraging, sim game that he came out of today.
Yeah, and obviously the reports have been nothing but positive from Yamamoto in the last couple of weeks, which is good. To your point, we saw Kershaw get a bunch of positive news and then have a setback. We've seen that. That's part of the process with a lot of these guys. Obviously, what Yamamoto is coming back from is not nearly as serious as some of these guys who, when you're out for 6 to 9 months, then you have setbacks. That feels normal. So if Yamamoto can come back, though, Daniel, all of a sudden you've got this rotation that feels like it has vacillated between being an absolute liability, and then there are days when you look at it and you're like, I mean, if Yamamoto comes back and if Glasnow is healthy and if Kershaw continues pitching the way that he has, and if Gavin Stone is the real deal in the last 2 starts, all of a sudden you've got a problem in the best possible way from the rotation. And so I think the good news for me as it relates to Yamamoto is there's sort of the positive momentum on the injury front, while at the same time, there's probably not as much pressure and desperation for him to be perfect when he does come back as there maybe was a month ago.
Yeah, and look, this is a guy that gave a 12-year contract. I think it was 12 years.
Yeah.
So
The most
that's the
money
guy
a
you're gonna.
starting pitcher has ever received in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, like that's a guy you're gonna want to protect. Like he's a big part of this team's future, and as much as you want him, there for the postseason this year, if he's not feeling up to it, then it is good to see that you at least have some other options. Like you said, Gavin Stone, 7 shutout innings the other night. Clayton Kershaw has had a few good starts in a row now. So it's definitely, things are looking up. Obviously, this rotation, it's been a revolving door all season, It feels like, but we're at the point where all that matters is can you put it together for like a month or the next month and a half. And things are definitely trending in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, let's get to some questions. If you've got throw those in the chat, all caps questions. We will get to those. Daniel, I'm going to start with it's sort of a food, more of a drink question. This was a Twitter conversation we were having. Scotty revealed he's a dirty martini guy. What are your thoughts on dirty vodka martinis?
I've dabbled in a few of those in my day. I think I'm at the point now where those are kind of past me, and I don't even drink much in general anymore. But there definitely was I don't want to call it a phase, but there definitely was a point where I was, if I was out at a nice dinner or something, I'd be ordering a dirty martini. But so I'll side with Scott on that one.
Okay, yeah, I said olive juice, just fired into the sun. If there's one food I can't eat, it's olives. So kudos to Scott for being an adult, though, because that ain't me. Derek has a question. If we were to rewind the tape to go back before the trade deadline, would you have preferred the Dodgers acquiring Tommy Pham or Kevin Kiermaier?
I will say I think the Dodgers won their portion of the Tommy Pham trade where they got Edman and Kopech, who are both under control for another season. Tommy Pham it's a 1-year deal, so you lose him at the end of the year. So I'm happy with what the Dodgers ended up in that trade. I also don't think Eric Fetty has fared too well since he got to St. Louis. But this is a tough question. Obviously, Tommy Pham is a much better bat, and he's a right-handed bat, so it's kind of the opposite platoon of what Kiermaier would be. And the defensively, obviously Kiermaier is way better. So I think on this team, I might go Kiermaier just because they need that side of the platoon more, and they needed a center fielder, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I think in a vacuum, Tommy Pham's a better player. And there were some clubhouse concerns with him, which probably were a bit overblown, but that's a toss up for me. Like they both could fill a role. But the way Kiermaier's been playing, I'm not in a rush to ship him out of town. So I'll go with Kiermaier here.
Yeah, I'd say Pham. I mean, that's not going to surprise anybody. I've said I don't think Kiermaier is going to stick around for all that much longer. So, and I don't really like Tommy Pham. I wasn't that kind of a deal. I just, again, fit on the
Team
roster.
Jock.
What's that?
Team Jock.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I have given up the clubhouse issues just from the basis of like, on one hand, everybody likes the guy. On the other hand, he's been on like 6 teams in 4 years. So, I mean, it just seems like everybody seems to like this guy. The Jock thing is super weird. I don't think there's any justification for doing what Pham did, like pretty much no matter what Jock Peterson said. And especially if it's what Jock Peterson claims he said, that's even weirder. But yeah, give me Tommy Pham. We'll go with that. Here we go. I'm a man cheetah. This is an ideal playoff lineup, but 5 weeks until October is terrifying. Is there anything the Dodgers should do to minimize risk for injuries, even in a division race? Look, you're not alone. There's not a chance most Dodger fans haven't thought the same thing, which is just bubble wrap everybody for the next 5 weeks. But I mean, this is the question that he's asking gets at something that's been long a debate, which is, are the Dodgers going to be better off having to play dudes and having to be competitive for the rest of the season or not? It's been a knock that maybe they took their foot off the gas. Miguel Rojas, I believe, even said that. So we can't have it both ways. You can't want them. We can't want them to be in a race and to have to fight until day 162, while at the same time saying, how do we take care of these guys and make sure they're all healthy?
Yeah, I mean, it's the old rest versus rust debate that they have in every sport. But I would say baseball more than other sports. Like, you can't just sit guys. Like baseball, you need to be in a rhythm. Like, most guys want to play every day, just because if you sit too long, you might, you might start slumping or what, lose whatever you have going at the plate. So you got to just keep trotting your guys out there and hope there aren't any, fluke injuries or whatever the case may be. But the Dodgers aren't in a spot where they could rest guys right now, at least. Like, maybe in a couple weeks, if they grow that division lead back to 7 or 8 games, then you feel a little more comfortable. Like, I think guys like Will Smith, like, you could give him some extra days. Like Hunter Fiducia, we haven't seen him yet since he got called back up, but I would expect him to get a start or two in the next week or so. But other than that, like, you gotta play your guys. Like, you can't just start sitting guys, down the stretch. We've seen in the past time off and resting guys down the stretch, and then the week off before the NLDS. That has not done well for the Dodgers. So maybe a different approach would be better.
Daniel wants to know, do you think Walker Buehler comes back on a 1-year deal? So no for me.
Yeah, I would say no. Just there's a lot of starting pitching options, and I know with all the injuries, all those options, they run out pretty quick. But Ohtani coming back, Gonsolin coming back, May coming back, all these young guys coming up. Frosso will be back. Emmett Sheehan will be back. Like, the list goes on and on. I don't think, like, even if
Jack Flaherty potentially coming back.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't think Walker Buehler, quite frankly, like, he's not good enough to be in the mix right now to even consider it. So,
I said before, I hope they give him a $10 million contract to be an assistant pitching coach somewhere in the organization just to reward him for what he's done. But I'm sure he'll have major league suitors.
Look, I think Lance Lynn got like 10 million last year. So I think Walker Buehler will get a 1-year prove-it deal somewhere for probably around 8 to 10 million or whatever. And, they say the second year coming back from Tommy John is always better than the first. So I'll still be rooting for him, but it probably won't be in Dodger blue. Let's just be honest there.
If Yamamoto has no setbacks and ready to go for September, what would be the line or leash for him in the postseason? Is he a game 2 starter, 80 pitch limit or so? I think it's Glasnow, Flaherty, probably a game 3 starter at best. And then maybe you're playing matchups and looking at the calendar a little bit. But I feel like if Flaherty and Glasnow are healthy, those two guys have sort of clearly moved ahead of them, ahead of Yamamoto in the rotation would be mine. But I would still have Yamamoto sort of comfortably ahead of Kershaw and or Gavin Stone in that game 4 spot. Although, again, you look at the calendar and home games, road games, that kind of a thing would be sort of my answer to this.
Yeah, they might go with him in game 4, just because if he is only able to pitch once a week and you only need it, you might only have him for once per series. Whereas a guy like Kershaw could, in theory, throw twice if you need him to.
Yeah.
But I don't game 3 and game 4, both of those guys are probably only starting once. So I don't think there's much of a difference. And pitch count wise, like we'll once he comes back, if he does come back mid-September, then he should have 4 or 5 starts where he could build up that pitch count to, like, ideally you don't want to have a guy, shoving in the postseason, like 5 shutout innings, 80 pitches, and you have to yank him because he's on a pitch limit. Like, ideally you'd want him to be able to throw 95, 100 pitches per start, but obviously that depends on his health and such. So we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
I mean, typically in spring training, you're sort of building up an inning per week, and he's at 2 innings this week. He's expected to be at 3 innings next week. So if you do the math, by mid-September, he'd already be at 5 innings. And if we're projecting out till, basically the middle of October, potentially, there should be no reason why he couldn't give you 100 pitches. Dave wants to know, in your heart of hearts, how far do you think the Dodgers make it in the postseason? World Series for me, Daniel.
Look, I think they're the most talented team, and as we all know, like that doesn't guarantee anything, and
nope.
It's pretty much a coin flip when you get into the postseason. But I will say, like, this team compared to last year's team, just from a talent standpoint, is far superior. So yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be confident, but that only goes so far, just because we all know how much of a crapshoot the playoffs is.
Yeah, absolutely. Roy wants to know, is it time to bat Muncy 6th and Will Smith 7th? Come on, Will Smith, two balls over 101 miles an hour. He's back. He's back, folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think they like the lefty righty. That's
the right answer.
I will say what we might see, like Gavin Lux is obviously lighting the world on fire right now, so you're not moving him down. But if he does cool down a little bit, I could see that switch. If Muncy, keeps swinging the bat well, he goes back up to the 5 spot. Gavin Lux down to the 7 spot. But I do think they like lefty righty, and that's been a thing for years now, and that's probably never going to change. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Noisy Ninja, any thoughts on why the Dodgers don't want to hold Chris Taylor off from coming back until they expand rosters? I've been confused by this. Here's my best guess, Daniel. They kind of want to give Chris Taylor as much time as possible to figure it out. Like, that's the only answer I possibly have.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't really know either. Like, and who knows? Like, I know we're joking about the Rojas stuff. Maybe his hamstring is really bugging him, and we'll see. But yeah, I don't know the answer to this. It definitely seemed like the most logical thing to just give Taylor another week or so in the minors and then activate him on September 1st. That way you don't have to hurt anyone's feelings or whatever. But I guess when the other option is just throw Rojas on the IL for 10 days, that's not hurting anyone's feelings either. And that probably would be a benefit to a guy like Rojas, who's older. But yeah, I do think they want to give CT opportunities. He started showing signs of life before he went down with the injury. I know it's been a tough year for him. And he probably faces an uphill battle to make the postseason roster, but I do think he's a guy who's earned at least the opportunity to give it a chance and see what he's got. So we'll see. Like, he's the forgotten man kind of in all of this, but if he can figure it out, like, that's another valuable player to add to your roster, given, with his versatility.
Yeah.
He's been clutch in past postseasons. So I'm all for giving, CT some opportunities here to see if he could carry over what he was starting to do before he got hurt.
By the way, fun fact, as I'm looking at the standings, the Dodgers are the hottest team in baseball, Daniel. Only team with a 4-game winning streak in Major League Baseball right now. So
best record in baseball.
Take that, haters. GI has a funny question. Slim chance, but 4 teams from the same division could make the playoffs. Is that bad for baseball? This is why I saw that. The Giants are 3.5 games back of the 3rd wild card spot. The Diamondbacks and Padres both there. I would say this is the opposite of bad for baseball, because you would get some juicy matchups if any of these teams had to play each other from interdivision. So, I mean, it's kind of a funky look, but it's not like it's rigged. It doesn't really speak poorly of anybody else. It would just, I think, make for entertaining matchups.
Yeah, and I also think it would show that, like, even if there are, a few other really good teams in your division, like, that doesn't mean you can't go for it too, just because there is the possibility that literally 4 teams from the same division can make the postseason.
Yeah. Okay. Last question here. It's an important one. Jeremy wants to know, what should I order on Postmates tonight?
It's pretty late.
I saw chicken pad thai as a suggestion. That's great. Although I don't know what Thai food is open at 11:04 on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So maybe you're in Hawaii, Jeremy, and you've got 8 o'clock and we're a little late dinner, but
yeah, it might be like a Jack in the Box type. I don't know what options are open this late. But like a Taco Bell where you could get a lot of stuff for cheap. Those are kind of my go-to late night options, I'd say.
Oh gosh, that Taco Bell box that it's like the online one where it's like a cheesy gordita crunch, a 5-layer burrito, and nachos, I think. And it's just like, gosh dang it, it's like $7, and you're like, I hate myself afterwards. But there you go. Matt says, I believe it's Matt, says Del Taco in the chat. That's an option. I saw somebody say Der Wiener Schnitzel. Which is hilarious, because actually last time, I don't think, might have been the last time. I was in January. I flew in and I like landed at 8:00, dropped my bags off. It's like 9:45 and I'm trying to order food and like nothing is open. And literally Wiener Schnitzel is what I ended up ordering because I hadn't had it in probably a decade. And
Yeah.
it disappointed, maybe unsurprisingly to some, although I see chili cheese dogs is what I should have gotten. I didn't get that. So maybe that was the issue.
I don't know either. Even if Wiener Schnitzel was good, I don't know if that's late night. I don't know if that's the move. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, that might be a just fast until the next day. Here we go. Carlos with the super chat. So we got to answer this. Jeff, how are we feeling about Minshew? Hashtag Raiders. Here's the thing, Daniel. People are sleeping on the Raiders. Okay.
That is true. You're not wrong there.
No debate there. Here's how I feel. I think the defense, when Antonio Pierce, the last 9 games last year under Antonio Pierce, I'm so glad this super chat happened. I could say this. The last 9 games under Pierce, they had the best scoring defense in all of the league. And then they added Christian Wilkins right next to Max Crosby. The defense is going to be like elite. Nobody's saying that. Nobody talks about the Raiders when they talk about best defenses. I think they're going to be really, really good. I think Minshew might stink. I've always liked Minshew. He's looked terrible this preseason. So I'm hopeful that he's just a gamer. When the lights come on, he just miraculously becomes better. But they have weapons. The offensive line should be okay. So I think it's going to be a lot of ugly rock fights. But 6.5 is the over-under. Pound the over, baby. That's my answer.
I'm glad. I'm also glad this question got asked because I actually was meaning to ask you. Obviously, fantasy drafts coming up, and with Minshew being the quarterback, I've been doing some mock drafts. Is Zamir White a guy to target kind of in the middle of drafts? Are you high on him or
I'm low on him? And I'm not. A lot of people disagree with me. He's just one of these guys, to quote our guy Matt Moreno, doesn't pass the eye test to me. Like I just watch him and I'm like, I know what the numbers say. I just have never been impressed by him. So clearly they let Jacobs go. They might like him a little bit, but yeah, he's not my favorite. He wouldn't be my guy. I'm in dynasty leagues and I've been targeting the dude they drafted in the 7th round, Dylan Lobby or however you pronounce his last name, long term. So there you go. Carlos agrees with me, by the way. He says, don't do it, Daniel. Pass on Zamir White.
Yeah, good to know. So I guess it's Devontae Adams and Raiders defense and their kicker as well, Daniel Carlson.
I think Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers. I would both those guys. I would be fine with.
I forgot about Bowers. So you guys got some pretty good weapons there.
Yeah, totally. And even their other tight end, Michael Mayer, he probably won't be fantasy relevant, but they've got 4 legit dudes who can catch passes. Yeah. And I think Zamir White's fine. So there you go. Well, there you go. You got some Raiders talk at the end, which I know everybody was hoping for. So we appreciate everybody for joining us. 1,995 people. I kind of want to stick around just to see if that number gets to 2,000, but I don't think it's going to. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Again, the Dodgers win. They sweep the Mariners. They get an off day. 13 games in 13 days, Daniel. They go 10-3 on that stretch. So incredible stuff for the Dodgers. That is Daniel. I am Jeff. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. And as always, go Dodgers.